Good to be with you. Do I sit here?
Yes, please.
Thanks for having me. So, an opening statement?
Opening statement, please. Yes.
So again, my name is Dr. Jellig, and Dr. J is fine. It's easier, I think, for some. And I am the superintendent of schools here in South Bend, which is such a privilege to work on behalf of the Rubiks Crossing students and the students at all the schools, middle schools and high school. This is my 4th school today, so I really enjoy opportunities like this to get out and see what students are doing, in this case student journalists. And I'm just really happy to have the opportunity to answer any questions, good questions, tough questions, right? Because this is part of what makes a civil society work, is the public has to ask questions and demand answers from people like me. So, no further ado, I will turn the program over to you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the press, are there any questions? You can point.
Ought I hold this as I talk?
You can. It's whatever you're comfortable with.
Would that be better for you all? And it doesn't occur to me in the on position. Should I put it on?
Yep.
Okay. Yes.
Hello, my name is Shagun, and my name is Brenda, and we have a question. We know that you're new to this district, but so far, how do you feel about the school and the principal?
Well, thank you. Ironically, I don't feel that new. I was hired April 1st, and I pretty much started then, so I'm in less than a year. So, but I can tell you, I've seen and done a lot in that time. I've probably been to Rubiks Crossing, for example, 25 times, I would say, over the last 6 or 8 months. And I feel wonderfully about the schools in general, in terms of how I evaluate schools, right? Are they safe schools? Are they challenging students? Are we treating each other well? Is the overall program, music, athletics, arts, and academics, all present to all of our children? All of that seems to be working well. And I happen to believe that you have a superb principal, Mrs. Molly, who I also know very well.
So Russ, take a second then and write down your notes quickly how to put that.
Yes, sir.
My name is Nihar, and how do you feel about everyone bringing in?
How do I feel about everyone bringing in Rubik's Cubes? I have a Rubik's Cube. I have 4 children of my own who are about your age, and they have Rubik's Cubes. In fact, they aren't always good at sharing, so we have 4 Rubik's Cubes rather than having one they can pass around. And I think it's a great, you know why I like it is there's no technology involved. There's no batteries, there's no Wi-Fi. It's just sort of trying to solve a problem, which is really a lot of what life is going to be like for you. So I'm a big fan of Rubik's Cubes. If you're asking me about their presence here in school, I would probably defer to the principal and the faculty, because they would better understand whether or not they get in the way of instruction, whether or not they cause problems at lunchtime or recess. But if you're asking me in general, I'm a big fan of not only the Rubik's Cube, but all sort of problem-solving devices, especially those that don't require plugging in. Hand over here somewhere. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Trisha, and I was wondering, do you think school should start 2 hours later than it does now?
Well, I don't have a strong opinion on whether or not school should start 2 hours later. I think school should start at an appropriate time when children are mentally and physically available to learn, and when staff can physically arrive and do their work. So it's kind of an intersection, right, of your needs, staff availability, and then all trying to sort of make that work. I know that there is some conversation that school starts too early. Not so much for you, but for high school students who are at a different place. They're informed by their hormones, and their wake-sleep patterns are different than yours. So I do think there is some substance behind the argument that high school should start later. But there are challenges, right? And there are only so many buses. There are only so many ways we can do this staggered opening with 9,000 students. But I think a question like that, like all questions, deserves to be thought about and debated and discussed. Then ultimately you have to decide, which course to travel. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, Dr. Jellig. My name is Adish. What is your opinion on bringing cell phones to school?
That's a great question. There weren't cell phones when I was a student, so I didn't have to answer this for myself. It was during my teaching career that they became more prominent. And I was a late adopter. I think I got my first cell phone in 2004. I know that this year that my children were born, and it felt like finally a necessity, right? So here's my opinion on cell phones. I think they offer wonderful opportunities for connectivity, for safety, and to some degree for communication. I would also say that cell phones in elementary school can create a fair number of problems. Everybody doesn't have one. When is the appropriate time to use them? When is the inappropriate time to use them? Do they cause us to wander from the text that we're trying to read, the math problem that we're trying to solve? I think that you'll see, as you get older, more and more of these freedoms come to you without having to ask. But at this point in your life, we do try to sort of restrict what is happening as an act of love, not as an act of exclusivity. We're not trying to exclude you from cell phones. We're really trying to help you focus on what's most important. So I would only preach caution with cell phones in elementary school, or middle school for that matter, because there really are bigger issues that we're here for. Yeah, thank you for asking. Yes, ma'am.
My name is Meg, and my name is Anya.
Another team question. Okay.
What do you think about homework?
About homework? Well, I don't think that when I was in your seat, I necessarily looked forward to homework. I don't know that it was my favorite thing. I didn't come to school wondering, I wonder what homework we're going to get tonight. And when I get home, I begin a negotiation with my own 4 kids who are in grades 2, 4, 5, and 5 about homework, and how do we get through this. And at times I am struck by the amount of homework that they have. So there's this balance between homework as good practice, right, that maybe can be done in a few minutes, and then there's homework that appears to be almost like a second day of school. And that's not fun for kids, and it's probably not fun for teachers. And I can tell you that however much you do, they have to grade. So it is more a function of, I think, more expectations on the school with roughly the same number of days, right? 181 days. The day's the same length, a little over 7 hours. So it's somehow trying to squish more into that time. So homework becomes a necessity. But I do think that we need to be really cautious about how much we assign, what we expect of students, and are we making it more about practice and reinforcement than covering material in such a way that it doesn't feel real. Yes, you're next.
So, I have another question.
Great.
Would you like to change something in the school or district?
Wow, anything in the district? So, not so much Brooks, but district-wide? I can't think of anything right now that I truly feel needs changing. I would like us to get better in a lot of ways. I'd like to personally get better. I'd like to, get better at the things that I need to do to support principals, to support teachers, to support you. But I wish I had a better question or a better answer for your question. But I don't see a big deficit. I always wish we had more money. And yet I don't want to overburden the taxpayers. But the money comes from somewhere, right? It comes from your parents who pay property taxes. But I would always like to have a little bit more money to be able to afford to do some of the things that we would love to do, but always can't. So, yes, sir. In the back, you had your hand up. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Harmina, and if you have ever been bullied, how do you feel?
Yeah. It's funny. I wrote a letter to the faculty today where I talked about bullying, and so this will sound funny, but I have been bullied. In fact, I'll tell you a story. The reason why I refer myself as Dr. J, or used to be Mr. J, is my last name is Jellig, Jellig, which is really easy to manipulate, right? Jelly, Jello. So as a kid, and it never really, maybe it did bother me, but I'm so old now, maybe I just forget. But I would be called Jelly Belly or Jello Head, or just these names, right? These sort of names that sometimes sting. And that's why I actually simplified it. I was tired of having this name that it came over from Europe, and that's my name now, right? So what I will tell you is there's a degree of discomfort that I think is healthy in everyone's life. We should all at times feel a little bit uncomfortable, right? If for no other reason than it tells us how we need to treat other people, right? Can I ask a question of you? I know my job is to answer. Have you been bullied? Has anyone here ever not been uncomfortable? So we've all at one point been uncomfortable, whether it was someone making fun of you for your name, your height, your jacket, something, right? I think within that, there is a tiny bit of value, which is we learn, and I teach my kids this all the time. When someone says something really cruel, there's a lot of ways to just work through that. Like, well, thank you for your opinion. And you sort of walk away and you're left, wanting more of a reaction. Or I disagree, but thank you for your opinion. Or any of these sort of what I call coping mechanisms, where you just sort of, you learn to get through it. Because ultimately, what do you care what a mean person thinks of you? So my convoluted, confused answer is, yes, I've been bullied. To some degree, I think we all need to feel, not necessarily bullied, but uncomfortable. And I will tell you that in all schools, particularly the ones that I serve, I'm deeply concerned with your mental, your psychological, your emotional safety. It's a deep concern to me. If for no other reason, then you cannot perform academically at your best if you have these things on the back of your mind, what you're being called, who's judging you, what they're judging you for. So to have a clean mind, you really need to have I think a feeling of safety and security. So I gave you like a very confused answer. That's how I feel.
And one more thing.
A follow-up, very good.
Like, when you got bullied, did anybody get in trouble? And why do you think, if yes,
Yeah.
and no, then why do you think so?
I'll tell you something else about how far we've come with bullying. I was a habitual stutterer, right through high school, actually. And if you listen, if you have a good ear, you'll still hear it, in me. And I've learned to deal with it with synonyms and different coping mechanisms. But it was really the most traumatizing thing from my youth was the inability to speak in a clear and fluid way. It was so difficult. And I can recall teachers making fun of it. There was a cartoon character named Porky. Was it Porky Pig? Do you guys know him? He's out now.
Yeah.
You're more of a SpongeBob generation. Well, Porky Pig stuttered. And it was funny. I mean, people laughed at it. I didn't laugh at it because I lived it, right? I felt it, and I was very hurt by it. And it was such a different time. And that's why I say schools are better. The teachers are better. The curriculum is better. Some things we can still improve, but that would never happen today. I mean, when I see a teacher, in any of our schools, observe anything that is below our high standard of decency, they jump right in and they make it a teachable moment. That's not okay. How do you think he felt? How would you feel if that were you? I didn't have that. You just sort of dealt with it. And there's a piece of that, back to my earlier comment, that I value. You want to develop that sort of toughness, that every little insult won't drag you down. But yeah, I was bullied, and yes, it stung, and it's probably why today I try so hard to help create safe space for you guys, because it doesn't bring out the best in you, and that's what we need. You're welcome. I'm sorry. Who are we pointing to? Oh, okay, go ahead.
My name is Lexi, and my question is, what's your opinion on gum in school?
Gum in school, tough one. So I am a sometimes gum chewer. It's not something I do a lot of. My feeling is I probably don't ever have gum in the workplace. Like when I chew gum, it would probably be like on the weekends or after school or things of that nature. Only because, you have like your circle time and you have hallways of carpet and even that aren't carpet, and gum can really create a lot of problems with the maintenance of the school itself. I think it's also, the chewing of gum I can see maybe irritating someone. It just sort of takes people off task. So while I'm not anti-gum, I think it's probably a great after-school weekend type of activity. It's my sense. I could blow a pretty good bubble, I can tell you. In my day, I could really get like head size, but now I chew like little, like almost like breath gum. It's not as fun. Thank you. Yes.
Do you think kids would actually work better in school if school started 2 hours later so that they had more sleep?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that probably the greater question, the American Pediatric Society came out with a new study 2 weeks ago, where it wasn't so much about start time, it was about sleep time. And you had these wake-sleep patterns. People your age really, truly need very, very close to approaching 11 hours of sleep. 10 to 11, I believe is the number they gave. Whereas my age, 7 to 8, which I don't get, to be perfectly candid. But I do think that you absolutely need to be rested to be effective at school. Whether that means going to bed an hour earlier or sleeping an hour later, I don't know that that's really the big issue. It's, are we getting enough sleep in general? That has to do with when our day begins to slow down, when we eat our last meal, when we commit ourselves to a restful night, which doesn't mean going to bed and turn the TV on or taking the iPod out, or right? It's when you truly commit to beginning that sort of winding down of one's body, because that really does matter for schools. So I'm more about the total hours than starting and ending. So. Yes, sir.
My question is, what is your dream of South Brunswick in 5 years?
My dream for South Brunswick in 5 years. Well, the dream would be that every child, the 9,000 I often refer to them, and it's a moving number, sometimes bigger, sometimes smaller, but the 9,000 all get what they need: math skills, reading skills, scientific skills, and all get what they want: lots of art, lots of physical activity, acting, music, all the things that make school so full, right? And that every school becomes a bit of a research laboratory where teachers are studying their workplace and making constant tweaks to make school better for kids. I'm not saying this because there's nobody from the DOE here, or there are a few teachers here, but I don't think anyone disagrees that schools would be better if the rules were written by teachers, right? And right now that isn't really the case. So, we work towards that. And to the extent that we can create schools that do research, studying you, what you need, what makes you most effective, most happy, the best writers, the best mathematicians, I want all of that. So all that you need, which is sort of like your spinach and your vegetables, right? Unless you like those things.
I love it.
And then, good. And then all that you want, that art, music, recess, all the things. I have a son that if it weren't for PE, he wouldn't go to school. And that's where he tolerates math to play kickball. But hopefully we'll work through that.
My name is Samira, and I just wanted to ask you, if Rubik's Cubes get too much of a problem, would you ban them?
Well, I have such confidence in you, the students, the faculty, Mrs. Mahoney, that I just feel like if it became a problem, I'm not sure what that would look like were they disrupting class time or something, I feel like we would work towards a solution so that we didn't take something, to me, as interesting as a Rubik's Cube and just get rid of it, right? I think that the way to deal with things like that is more to attack the behavior, not the device, right? Because the device is a device. I see one here, actually. That doesn't really cause a problem. It could be anything, right? It could be a deck of cards. It could be some dice. And a lot of interesting activities can come from a deck of cards or a set of dice or a Rubik's Cube. It's the behavior that might need correcting. But to me, when you talk about eliminating something like that, on some level, we've all failed, right? If you just pass a law to stop something, I just feel like we failed. We passed a lot of laws in this country to control the way people act, and that's to a point necessary. But ultimately, you really like people just to make good choices, right? Thank you. Great question, all of you.
Good. We're gonna more minutes,
Who
so
hasn't had a chance to ask one? Anybody?
last questions.
Okay, please.
My name is Eric, and have you ever tried the school lunch? If so, what do you think about it? If not, what do you think it would taste like?
I have. I've eaten at the high school probably the most. And I will tell you that I think the meals might get better with each grade level, so you can look forward to that. I think that our lunches here are goodish, good enough-ish. I'm a packer, okay? I can tell you, I have a PB&J at my desk. How many days of school are there? 180?
Yeah.
181? I would say, I remember when I was a teacher, I thought, I can wait to be a principal, I can go out to lunch. I would say I eat a PB&J 173 days a year at my desk. Peanut butter and jelly, I make it the same way myself, that right before lunch. And that's always an option, right? Packing lunch. So when you buy, you kind of get what you get. But I think they do their best. And I know that you guys hopefully give them good, positive feedback.
Maybe with this article, they'll get some good feedback.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Groundbreaking.
There's the girl in the back, another team question. Sure.
Have you ever seen anybody complain about homework and how did they answer?
Did I ever see anyone complain about, I missed the last part.
About
Homework. Is that, you mean in South Brunswick or in my own home? Yeah, so my children complain about homework. One in particular, I have 4 kids and they couldn't be more different, right? Some of them want to come home and just dig right in. Some of them, it's the last thing in the world they want to do. And I think, you know what empathy means? To empathize? Someone raise your hand, tell us what empathy means. Empathy.
to put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Perfectly well said. Better than I would have said. To understand how someone else feels. So when I see my little Donnie, who's named for his father, my grandfather, my father, and painfully he looks like me, and at times at his worst he acts like me, he doesn't see the point. And that's a really tough sell, right? It's tough to sell someone on an idea where it just doesn't make sense. Not that he can't solve it, he just doesn't understand why. After being in school from 8:15 until 3 o'clock, he has to come home and do the same stuff. And I empathize. I hurt for him, and I hurt for you. What I tell him is that this is necessary to make for a successful 4th grade, which allows for a possible 5th grade, perhaps middle school, someday high school, and if all works out, someday college. So it's sort of mixed into the K-12 experience that you're all going through. Yes.
Okay, we're gonna make this the last question. Is that okay?
Last question? Sure. Yes.
My name is Ishan, and so if teachers are allowed to use cell phones in school, wouldn't students be allowed to?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say that, we want to do as good a job as we can of modeling the behavior that we expect, right? You're saying that maybe there's almost like a double standard. I would just say this. The teachers in the building are not here, to gain an education. They're here to provide one. They also drove cars here. I assume there's no student parking lot, right? Unless you guys walk or ride a bike. So the rules are a bit different. Many of them, I would say most of them, are also balancing their work responsibilities with home responsibilities. The only reason I ever check my phone, most people don't even know I carry one. I don't like walk around with it and so on. I think it's away right now. Is if I get a call from my children's schools or things of that nature. I also think they use their phone to contact your parents or to contact some of the other people who might support this school, my office, the middle school. So I would not want you to presume that when they have their phone out, they're either playing Angry Birds or talking to their best friend from high school. It may just be work-related. But here is one, and this will be my parting thought for you. Here's one way for you to get back at them. Work really hard
Can we quote you on that, sir?
Yes. You want to see the rest of my day?
Well, thank you so
So,
much.
I'm thankful for the opportunity.